Hello, everybody, and welcome to another daily plan. I'm your boss, Joe Boss, and man, check out the DXY, man. This thing keeps falling and falling and falling and falling. Same thing with these equity markets, man. Look at these big fat bottom wicks on all these candles. People keep buying these things up, but people keep selling the stuff off. Well, it's the expectation that the U.S. is going to have some slowing growth, right? After Trump said, oh, there's going to be some growing pains, right? But then Besant also said something along the lines of, hey, don't expect there to be this incredibly horrid negative GDP number. So there's stuff going on. There's stuff going on when it comes down to the U.S. slowing down. I mean, it's certainly making European equities look all right, but they took a hit yesterday and sort of a hit today. So equity markets around the world, you see here's the Nikkei, not doing so well. Equities, right? Topics. This is New Zealand. This is Australia. Australia's doing, their equity market's doing terrible. Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty low volatility compared to the rest of the stuff we've been looking at. That's just straight down super high autocorrelation. But man, this is quite a move. Here's the Dow. Don't get me wrong. The reason, people were freaking out over here. Like, is this going to turn into a recession is the question. Personally, I don't know. A lot of it is going to depend on, frankly, what tariffs get implemented at what size, because we can go over the Ukraine ceasefire stuff today and how that's helped provide a little bit of relief in at least expectations around that war. But we got all these new tariff threats. Ontario's Doug Ford warns of Trump recession, threatens electrical shut-off to U.S. So Canada provides a lot of electricity to a bunch of states across the border in the United States. That's what he's threatening here, is to shut off some of that electricity. Canada's designate PM Carney says that the Trump tariffs are an attack on Canadian workers and businesses. We will keep tariffs until the U.S. commits to free and fair trade. We will ensure tariff response has maximum impact in the U.S. And then all this stuff here is what Trump had to say about Carney, about Canada, about all this stuff. Like, do I need to read this to you guys? Do I have to read this? This will be a short stream, and this would become the majority of the stream. I'd rather you guys go ahead and read this on your own. Again, you can read all of these updates as soon as they come out. Actually, here in the Trump tariffs thread in the Discord, that's actually a little shortcut, that little pop-up. So see, all these notifications, all this stuff, it got cross-posted already sooner, faster here into the Trump tariffs thread. I mean, you can go over here, join this Discord for free. There's no paid stuff or anything. There is a trading group that is in this Discord right here, the Boss Trading Group. That's where all these indicators that I have come from, right? And you can actually see here on the Dow, a lot of lows for the month generally get made in this area. So we'll see if this turns out to be the low for the month. Personally, I'm still not sold on incredibly on all this weakness still. Like we're setting expectations for the US to slow down incredibly hard for GDP to slow down incredibly hard. We have US CPI for tomorrow's stream. And if US CPI doesn't come in, totally terrible, right? If we do this, right, here's US core inflation data, right? US inflation rate. If inflation effectively comes down at a slower pace, if we get disinflation, right, that's going to be good for the policymakers at the Fed. If inflation stays about the same and unemployment stays about the same, then their policy is going to stay about the same. So the Fed's going to stay right where they are. And so long US GDP isn't, totally wrecked when it prints, it should be printing next week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure we have something that's GDP related coming out shortly here. I wish there was a search function in the TradingView one, but I have some lives that are up. Let's see here. Yeah, March 21st. So that's here. I wonder why it says no scheduled reports, because we're getting flash PMIs and US GDP. So no scheduled reports doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe it's... Yeah, there's the reports. Maybe I have the wrong calendar or something. Yeah, I must have the wrong dates. Look, there's Japan's inflation coming in. So we're getting CPI numbers in tomorrow. That's going to impact whether or not we continue to have, don't get me wrong, if we have higher inflation, that's not going to be particularly good on the US side of things. People are going to begin printing out the headlines. Oh man, we're going to start getting the Trumpflation, right? It's the beginning, the first data point of the Trump recession. And everyone who hates Trump is just going to run with it. Now, Trump did say something along the lines of get ready for, be open to having a little bit of a tough time in the short term. But I don't even know to what extent that's going to occur. Like, is it going to be a really tough time? Like, are we going to see 2 or 3% rise in CPI over the next several months if these tariffs get put on? Again, if these tariffs get put on, in the Canada situation, it might happen because Carney has been very combative in his language, right? But Trump, here's the kicker, right? What I just highlighted. Paperwork raising tariffs on Canada have not been signed. And that was today. So until we actually get these things actually signed, nothing crazy is going to happen. Also, I'm going to make a poll here, or rather, should I make a... Yeah, I should probably make a poll. I'll do it maybe after the stream, or I'll just ask for you guys in the YouTube comments to tell me, or I'll send out a notification. I'll find out some way to get some feedback here, because the last programming stream did quite well, and I'm going to do 2 programming streams per week now that stream has done so well, instead of just the one on Saturdays. So if you guys want to help me pick a day, right? I know that's on Saturdays. Maybe I can do a programming stream sometime in the middle of the week, and then one that's on the weekend. So I just want to know, okay, what would be a good day, right? Currently, I'm thinking maybe doing it on the Tuesday or on Wednesday, but You know what? There's usually a lot of trading stuff going on during the weekdays, so I'll try doing two programming streams. We'll probably keep it to one, but for now, I want to attempt to. Right, let's try out two. So there'll be a stream every weekday for trading, and then two streams, one on the weekend, probably one on a weekday for programming. All right, let's see. What else is new? Let's check out the Eurodollar. Eurodollar, I set this negative this was hilarious, man. I set this negative expectation on Eurodollar based on the announcement that MERS had a meeting with the Groen, and they need, the CDU and the SPD need the Greens to pass some of their legislation, some of their stimulus proposals. But when the Greens held their meeting, they told the leader of the CDU, Friedrich Merz, hard no. We are not interested in this stimulus. In fact, we don't like this stimulus so much, we're going to recommend our own stimulus. We're going to create our own package. And that's where I was like, okay, yeah, this is probably going lower. And then, literally an hour or two later, and you can actually see, right, this is the dip on that news. Then an hour or two later, after I finally am like, okay, I'm posting my analysis on why I'm maintaining these shorts. An hour or two later, the Greens come out and the co-leader of the Greens comes out and says, hey, we are going to try and work out a deal with the SPD and the CDU, where we hope we can work out a deal. And then pop goes the weasel, right? Eurodollar smashes higher, and then I'm bless my heart, I get out like around here because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed tonight. I'm gonna put my stops here. I'm gonna expect this thing to close red on the day. We're all good. I'm so happy I did that. I saved myself 70 pips of drawdown, by making sure I had that stop on, right? Actually, more so, right? So from here to here, I call it 70 pips. It's a little less right now, but I put the stop effectively right here. Oh, do I not have the Epic pen on? No, apparently not. At least I know my hotkeys. Let's see here. Come on, Epic pen. Sometimes Epic pen takes a while. Yeah, there we go. All right. Right here is where we had the stop. So that was that. Oh, not sure what that was, but let's continue on. Oh man, I forgot to turn the music back on. That's nice. Alright, I said this is going to be a shorter stream, so we're just going to run through a few with the probability pivots for the week, see where we are right now on the week. Super positive yield spreads. All right, most of the time for the week on Eurodollar, the top comes in around here. Past this R1 pivot, I'm going to turn that down just a hair. Yeah, there we go. All right. Create an alert right around that R1. Crossing that R1, I'd expect something along these lines, right? Okay, so I'd expect the rotation to come in now. Also, just as a reminder, probability pivots uses seasonal data. If we're not expecting seasonal behavior, then these statistics aren't super hot, in my opinion. Given these yield spreads are so positive still, if we go to a daily yield spread, right? And also we'll get to see the monthly range, the monthly probabilities, right? You can see how far high up we are. We have never, in the last 21 years that we have data for the month of March, have ever gone past this R4 pivot, so it'd be like a really high move. But given these super positive yield spreads, it's really not out of the question, right? The yield spreads are at 8 on this indicator. 8 is really high, man. 8 is really, really, really high. So this was an incredibly strong move, and the yield spreads would have kept you in if you'd stayed long, right? I mean, I even took a shot long here not that long ago, right? I took a shot long here, and if I just held that instead of trying to take shot, right, it would have been a 300 pip trade, right? That goes to show when the yield spreads are printing green, or are printing hard red and hard green, it's very... It doesn't usually work out trading against the yield spreads. It's a very good example of, hey, here's a good recording, an example of, hey, don't trade against the yield spreads, right? There's enough outlooks that are here that get posted in the trading research threads. There's enough institutions that say, hey, we're looking at these yield spreads and we are seeing that everything is incredibly positive right now. We probably don't, we want to take this opportunity to trade in the direction that the yield spreads are moving. And that's actually how most of these institutions do a lot of their analysis, is they use yield spreads. And I have an indicator for it that you can get access to from my TradingView account here in the Boss Trading Group. And then you'll be able to trade with other guys who also know how to use the yield spreads. Also, I've been doing some more research and some more technical things in the background, PineScript-wise, outside of the programming streams that I've been doing, to hopefully make the indicator a little more useful. I'm playing around with ideas. I haven't got anything down to code yet. I technically still need to update this indicator for PineScript v6. I got a lot of things I got to work on. So the current thing that I'm working on right now is getting an update out for the timing dots. I got one particular must-have. I got two must-have features that I want to get done for the timing dots. And one of them, I can tell you guys, it's just, I've told a lot of people this, it's just automating this percent bounce feature. Getting that automated, right? But you'd be kind of surprised, actually, how just making this a setting that you change on your own helps a lot. It really does matter having this be an actual input than something automated. However, I'm doing some research still. I thought I had an answer a couple of days ago and I could push out something, and then I tested it and it didn't work. So I'm still looking for answers, and I'm still working on upgrades. So while I'm testing out these ideas, I am doing other upgrades to the indicator. So good work is getting done on the indicators. That's nice to hear. This is a good demo of don't trade against the yield spreads. When it comes down to the yield spreads on some of these other assets, right, and sometimes my expectations are really on point, right? Okay. Yield spreads are very positive on the Aussie dollar. Yield spreads are pretty... They're okay. They're positive, but they're not fantastic. I would expect slightly higher prices. Again, looking at these probability pivot points, and yeah, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised to see 57.8. But then if we hit 57.8 here on New Zealand dollar, I wouldn't mind taking a shot short. Pound dollar, wow, that is hitting a peak here on the monthly. So we might see a rotation coming in here. We have the spring statement coming in. This is just a budgetary fiscal thing. So we'll have to see exactly what occurs here. But man, that was just up and to the right off the bat. So we'll see if this is something that is fadeable at all. These yield spreads, short term on the longer end, aren't super strong, but they gotta move negative before I even consider doing any sort of fading, right? We need to actually see some short-term move here. Euro dollar is just in no man's land. This is catching falling knife situation, right? It is super positive yield spreads. You know, don't get me wrong, maybe the thing tops out right now, right here, but you know, you technically, probabilistically, are just as right guessing that the top is in right here as saying the top comes in up here. Because look at these very small probabilities. Bup, bup, bup. Right? See all these super small probabilities, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, 0.1. Like you're technically, yeah, you might be a little bit more higher chance of being right, saying that there's a short here, but you know, markets have fat tail returns. You can very easily end up in the wrong spot here. Very, very easily end up in a falling knife situation, especially if the US economic data shows higher inflation, which keeps the Fed on hold for longer, which would hurt growth even more. We really want to see that US CPI tomorrow come in lower. Okay, and on a cross pair, not so sure if that's the top end, but let's check if that's the low for the month. Oh man, that is pretty flat. Yeah, I'd be on the more concerned side of more follow through. So if I had to pick Aussie or New Zealand, I'd probably stick with New Zealand being the stronger of the two. Euro CAD, oh, that's a big fat top wick. But also, right, super small probabilities, right? We've never, well, actually 25% of the time the low, wow, that's a really strong continuation odd right there. Really, really strong continuation odds. And then way up here, oh wow, 10% of the time the top comes in for the month right here. Again, these are very flat odds, so this shows that during particularly the month of March, there's a lot more uncertainty as to where the top gets called in. I'm going to turn down this music just a little bit more. Can't quite hear myself speak over it. All right. Euro pound. We're in the trading group going to check out some research and actually find out the reasons why people are recommending short on this. The yield spreads are still quite positive, honestly. Don't get me wrong, the long end of this could flip and the short end of this is already flipping, so you know, maybe we start to see the thing round out, but we actually have to see that occur. And by the looks of things, we could definitely go a bit higher. The odds of finding the top for any given month increase at around this price here. Call it 846, 848, somewhere around here. The top usually comes in with a higher probability. But no guarantees, because these yield spreads can just keep on chugging along and keep staying positive, and Euro could continue. Just like what I pointed out with, you know, drawing that green X higher up on the euro dollar chart, that'd be like doing this, right? It'd be like doing that. All right. And then on the DXY side of things, we already know that it's already in tail risk area now. Yeah, either this thing like starts to bottom out like immediately around these prices, or you're going into some very low probability space based on the seasonal data at least. I would want to see like this immediately start reversing. Immediately. If I was still trying to be long the dollar, right? I took some shots around here, and now on this bit of data, I'm like, okay, no. Okay, dollar CAD. Wow, these yield spreads are quite negative. On the short term, they're on the more positive side. I think, yeah, so right here on the day, this is when we got that news of Trump making his post saying, you know, Canada is going to have some problems, and you can see fading that was the right idea. I just don't know if that's going to end up being the right move, honestly. I genuinely do not know. Don't get me wrong, the yield spreads are in favor of a lower dollar CAD, but at any point in time, Trump can put on these tariffs and go very, very hard economically against Canada. And if a trade war starts with Canada, dollar CAD goes up. Dollar CAD goes up. Because for as much as some of these Canadians will say, oh, I'm so patriotic about Canada, we need to convert all of our stuff that's in the US over to Canada. If they want to save the value of their savings, the smart ones are going to be like, oh man, Canada's putting themselves into a really stupid geopolitical situation. I need to be in US dollars to protect myself from my stupid politicians. Also, it looks like 80% of the time the top for the month comes in above this R0.5 here. So I wouldn't be surprised just to naturally see higher moves. Again, that's just based on seasonal data. On this kind of data, yeah, you can see I had a more positive expectation right off the bat. But you know what? This is also right when they resolved US tariffs with Canada, right? They delayed the tariffs again, right? They delayed the tariffs way back here, and that's what caused this shoot up and shot back down. And then same thing over here. We had this shoot up and then shot back down. But at least in this situation, I made money in both directions. I only made money in one direction over here. So I actually traded this better than the first tariff scenario. Let's see here. Anything else? Dollar yen. Dollar yen. Ooh, kinda pretty negative yield spreads at the moment. Pretty negative. Again, it's going to probably take another day or two to actually see these yield spreads go from red to a neutral white color. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be reaching these areas here. These are, I'm pretty sure that the volatility made these pivots expanded. Yeah, these are expanded pivots. Yeah, there's the probability weighted pivot. So most of the time, the low for the month comes in around here. We'll actually see if that's the case or not, but again, with these negative yield spreads, you got to be cautious of continuations lower. I think if I recall, here, give me a sec to check my trade group real quick. Group notes. BOJ. Yeah. On March 14th, the results from the 2025 Shunto will be released, informing the BOJ's outlook on inflation. And the early advance Shunto results will be released on March 6th. Between March 12th and March 19th, we will get significant wage updates. A hold is expected at their May 1st meeting for the BOJ. So sometime pretty much immediately, and on the 14th especially, we're going to be getting updates on wage data, like very, very important wage negotiation data here in Japan. So if the wage data continues to increase, which it likely is, we should expect the BOJ to become still a bit more hawkish, and for this yen trade to continue unwinding and to continue going lower. But if the wages aren't as impressive, then we can probably get a bounce right going into sometime next week. So if we look at the odds for next week, let's go ahead and look at this. Yeah, you can see that's the probability weighted pivot low for the week. I'll have to double check if the alerts for the probability weighted pivot are working, or if I have them set up, because I want the alerts for hitting these levels. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Pretty wide range of outcomes there on the downside next week. Pretty higher uncertainty, more certainty. Yeah, I'd rather be short next week. I'd rather be on the short side next week. I'd rather be on the short side going into next week and then getting short around R0.5, R1, right? And you just want to see an up and then a down first to get this short on. If you do a down and then an up, the week is at that point probably over. All right, so I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to on the FX side of things. I know Bitcoin had a nice pop here, and so far our expectations have been met on the Bitcoin side of things. Down here and then up. Right? When I've been saying, oh, Bitcoin exposure might be really good, this was my expectation. So I'd say so far so good. Let's see if we go up 10K this week from this point on. Let's see how well this expectation holds. All right, you guys. With all that said and done, I'm off. I know the stream is on the shorter side. Usually these are like an hour to an hour and a half. This is more like 45-ish minutes plus 10 minutes of like pre-stream setup, so it's more like a 30-minute stream. But I appreciate everybody who's been watching here on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, and WAP. Really appreciate it. And yeah, absolutely. I will see you guys in a bit. Let me get the music going. And thank you, Denise, for hanging out.